In addition, we have to think about that process of encoding. So how do we get that sensory input into a form that we're able to process? So I want us to go back to, how vision is developing. So in this example, this is actually an older infant because they're able to sit up and able to press on the buttons and stuff. But if this was a newborn baby, that baby cannot actually process the colorful images because the sensory system isn't able to even process a lot of the colors. So it's kind of constrained or limited by how the sensory system is actually developing. In addition, we have to think about how much speed is happening. So if we think about encoding words, what we do is we actually use infant-directed speech to slow that down, right? So that the information that's coming to that baby is a lot slower. And that helps them to be able to encode that information. We also have different aspects of our selective attention, right? So whether or not we can deploy our attention in different ways, that's going to help us with encoding. The next little bit is for us to understand more about processing speed, or how quickly we can actually process information. So obviously younger children take a lot longer time to process information. If you ever do habituation with a newborn infant, it takes them forever to actually habituate to something that you're showing them, right? So they still want to keep looking at it and looking at it. However, as they get older, they're able to look at that object and go, okay, I got it. I know what this object is, and habituate a lot faster. So this is just showing you habituation times for a 3-month-old and a 5-month-old. And what you can see here is that 3-month-old, right, they take a lot longer time to actually look. So they're up here at around 18 seconds, then they kind of go down, and then finally they get to where a 5-month-old is. A 5-month-old is able to process that information much quicker. And what we see is that there's a greater increase in the amount of time that a 3-month-old is looking. So this might just demonstrate that a 3-month-old just needs a longer period of time to actually be able to process stimuli. So if that's a toy or an object that they're looking at. This process continues to occur over time when we're looking at the degree of mental rotation. So if you have an object that's facing one way and you're asked to mentally rotate it to something else, for example, from left to right, or from to the side to the up, the greater the degree of mental rotation, the more time it takes us to actually do that. But what you notice here is that over age, so this is 8 years of age all the way to 22, we see a significant decrease in time that it takes us. The same thing with mental addition, so being able to add things like 5 plus 7. Our processing speed decreases, so it takes less time for us to do these things. So the last thing I want to talk about in this little section is that our ability to do all of these things also depends on how well we are able to attend to one thing and disregard other things. So our selective attention abilities is really important for us to be able to process information, right? So another thing that might be happening with those really young babies is that they have a harder time just attending to what they need to do. So in this case, a habituation trial. So being able to habituate to one thing, potentially one of the reasons why they're not as capable of doing that is because they might be attending to other things that are happening around them. So they don't have as good of an ability to selectively attend to something. So that was our first little bit. Next, we'll talk about the development of memory and how our actual structures of our brain might actually be changing so that we can remember more as time goes on.